So they couldn't get along.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Town Council meeting today together for April 1st, 2024, and I ask for Councilor Carbone to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have a special guest and a special thing we're going to be doing for the next few council meetings. You might have heard about it from our last council meeting. We started a kid mayor and a kid board of ed chair in every one of the elementary schools. So we have 5 kid mayors and 5 kid board of ed chairs. And the idea is for them to represent their schools, for them to learn about civics and local government, and for them to be a part of what we do here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, tonight is Charles Wright night. We're going to have Amina Kycia come up here. She's going to sit in my seat, read her essay. I think it's only about 20 pages, so you guys won't have to wait too long. No, it's about a page long. I'm going to move aside. Feel free to take photos. Then she's going to sit here, and I'm going to come back, and we'll take a group photo with the council, and I'll take a few minutes. So, Amina, if you would be willing.
attendance first.
Oh.
Gotta start with me.
So, I'm so excited about this, I forgot the regular plan events. So, we'll ask the town clerk. Sue, can you call the roll? Thank you.
Councilor Bailey?
Here.
Councilor Carbone?
Here.
Councilor Clancy?
Here.
Councilor Durick? Councilor Rhodes?
Here.
Councilor Timbrow?
Here.
Councilor Zambrello?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Forrest?
Here.
And Mayor Lesser.
Thank you. And Mayor Amina, are you here as part of the roll? You say yes. Come on up, please. And
Running the show now. Welcome.
I don't think I see you.
Get her a booster.
Hello, my name is Amina Kycia, and today I'm going to be reading my Charles Wright Kid Mayor essay. I am capable enough to become Kid Mayor because I love our community and my school, but not all people see how our great school is. I want to make the school look good and show everybody what a great school Charles Wright is. Then that will introduce more people to the school and change people's thoughts about Charles Wright. I will also fight and persuade our principal to help us with the changes around our school. I will also take thoughts from other students and teachers about the school to make it better. A further reason why I should become Kid Mayor is my leadership. I have great leadership skills and I'm great with working with other people or in a group. I'm also very respectful and accountable when it comes to working in a group or by myself. I love talking to people and listening to their different ideas. I love cooperating with students and listening to the thoughts about my ideas. That will make our school even better. Another reason that I should become Kid Mayor is that I am great at solving problems. When a problem occurs, I just don't ignore it. I break down the problem and solve it. I don't just give up at first try. I try many times before asking for someone for help. I'm very independent when a problem occurs. I have many great ideas that Wethersfield can benefit from, and I believe that with my leadership, empathy, and integrity, we can make them happen. I want to make this town the best it can possibly be, and I think this little change in our community can help in taking a step to achieve that. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity.
I'm going to take a group photo. Let's see. You can stay seated, but I'm trying to think, how do we, I think we all kind of come in
Well,
closer.
they can stay seated down here, right?
I can see her. You guys take it in a little bit.
If you can, I think we want to get everybody, make sure everybody gets in. So you're welcome to come in. Come on.
I guess I should be standing.
The only important one here, right here. Is me.
There you go. Squeeze it.
Perfect. I have all of you.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, Amina.
Meeting recess, I vote.
Amina, you did a great job, and we thank you for representing your school, and there's more stuff, not tonight, that we're going to get your input on things in Weathersfield, but thank you. We read over 40 essays. We selected some great students to represent their school, so thank you. Next week, for the next few weeks, we'll have someone else from another school, and we'll do that until we have all the 5 elementary schools, so 4 more. So, moving right along, is we have a proclamation recognizing Public Health Week. I'm going to read the proclamation, and then I'm going to ask, I'm going to stay here, and then I'm going to ask Diane to say a few words in honor of, and Diane's on the board, the Connecticut Health District. So here's the proclamation. Whereas the American Public Health Association has proclaimed April 1st through April 7th as National Public Health Week, and whereas this year's theme is protecting, connecting, and thriving, we are all part of public health. Public health is more than just health care. It's the steps we take to make sure our neighborhoods and our environment are free from pollution. It's making sure our food and water are safe to eat and drink. It's also the relationships we foster in our communities. We are all interconnected, and we all come together to support public health. All of us, individuals, families, communities, and the public health field can achieve the goals of public health. And whereas public health organizations use National Public Health Week to educate public policy makers and public health professionals on issues that are important to improving the health of the people of the United States. And whereas studies show that small strategic investments in disease prevention can result in significant savings in healthcare costs. And whereas the town of Weathersfield, together with its neighboring towns of Rocky Hill, Newington, and Berlin, receives quality public health service through its regional health department, the Central Connecticut Health District, which is now in its 28th year of service. Now, theretofore, on behalf of the Town Council, I, Ken Lesser, Mayor of the Town of Weathersfield, do hereby proclaim April 1st to April 7th as National Public Health Week in Weathersfield, Connecticut, and I encourage all our citizens to join me in this celebration and in acknowledging the critical role of public health in the prevention and in helping individuals and communities to achieve and maintain good health. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the town of Weathersfield to be affixed this first day of April 2024. Ken Lesser. Diane, I present this to you, and you're welcome to say a few words. Thank you.
Quick comment. Thank you.
I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the town council. I've been a Weathersfield resident for 30 plus years, and I've been on the board on the board of the health department, the health district for 6 years. And one of the few good things to come out of COVID was the improvement in collaboration and communication that I've seen between the health district and what town of Weathersfield. The town council, but also other entities like town departments and schools. And I think it's a change that makes both entities stronger and more effective. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for being here and for all you do for the health district. Appreciate it. Moving on, item C, we do not have any hearings. Item D, public comment. Let me just read this. There are 2 public comment sections on the agenda, one now and another towards the end of the meeting. During each public comment period, members of the public will have 5 minutes to speak on any issue. When you step to the podium, please state your name and address, at which point your time will begin. I ask that you address your comments to the entire council. We don't always have everyone do that. Please address us and refrain from speaking directly to or about any individual council members or the audience. I ask that you refrain from any derogatory comments or personal attacks, and please remain respectful. This section is for public comment, and the council will generally not engage in dialogue during this portion of the agenda. If any follow-up is needed, please leave your contact information with the town clerk, and the town manager will get back to you. At this time, I welcome any public comment. Anyone? Yes, Mr. Young, I saw your hand first.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. At the last town council meeting, we had the superintendent up here talking about his budget, and he was looking for a 6.5% increase, which I got up later on and mentioned that I thought it was pretty high, horrendous. And I think what he needs to do is go back and really do like we citizens have to do when it comes to running our households. Cut back, find savings. I've talked to you about how I came up with savings on my insurance. It's very easy, but it takes someone to have the will to do it. But when there is no will to do it, it won't happen. And I think that, $4 million is a lot of money, as well as he was talking about some of the deals or monies he was expecting at this point are not solid. So, of course, he pads it on, as he's not going to get it. And there's something wrong with that kind of an attitude, that kind of a situation. I mean, every year the state does things like this, and then gives money up later on. And if that happens, what do we do in that case after the budget's set? Reset it? Of course not. We let them sit on it. And what's disappointing too is, Mayor, I've been attending these meetings probably 25 years on a regular basis. And every year when we have a presentation of the budget, we hear about, here's what the history is by year, by their different categories, what the current budget is, what the current dollars are per date, and then what is projected till the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. Coming up with a total. Then we can see how it bounces off onto the next year's proposed budget. But we didn't see that at the last town council meeting when the superintendent was presenting that. He did have a spreadsheet on his website showing most of it, but not all of it. He's missing the current year that he's projecting out, that $65 million worth. And, when he spoke about his increases were certain line items, and I forget what they were, but the fact is, I think his salaries and benefits are the biggest portion. But again, as I mentioned, that's the responsibility, and all that lays on the town council because you're the ones who set that portion of the budget. You accept the contract, and the contract drives into the budget. But nobody up here cares. The last council didn't care. This council, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But the thing is, we're only getting a portion of the information for those who are attending the meeting. For us then to go out and research and find the pieces is wrong. It should all be here. I mean, that's why we pay the director of BOA, the Board of Education, to put these financial things together, as well as the superintendent. And this is year after year. You pull this. There was a time when you were doing it on a regular basis, and then you started dropping off. Just like the quality of our education is dropping off, but the dollars keep going up for the taxpayer. So I just wanted to make this clear that, I know you have a budget meeting probably coming up in the middle of April. Long before that, and granted that it is the 1st of April, we should be able to see that entire picture. And that same goes with the town side. We should be seeing that. We shouldn't have to ask for it. Correct, Mr. Manager? Thank you. But anyway, his 6.5% needs to be chiseled way back. We citizens, like I said, we have to chisel our households back.
Mr. Young, your 5 minutes are up. I'm going to ask you to summarize. There is another public comment
I have to
section.
summarize. cut back on that budget, because bring it down so people can afford to live here, because what you're doing and heading for is not a good thing.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Further, Cindy?
Cindy Jacobs, 71 Sunrise Terrace. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First of all, I'll start out with a word of thanks, and that is the installation we noticed this week or so. My family noticed that the chain link fence on the side of the sidewalk along Folly Brook, because that portion where the fence was installed really formed a precipice. It was like a 5-foot drop at the end of the sidewalk. So the installation of that fence is near Folly Brook, near Greenfield, removes a pedestrian hazard, and I think that's great that the town addressed it. I would like to direct your attention to the muddy trail behind Weathersfield High School. And let me say a few words about this trail. It is the trail that my family runs and takes walks on, and we visit it regularly, all year round. And I see that the trail is used by many. So I would say on a particular day, like today, maybe between 50 and 100 people would use the trail. Now the trail is, and it's used by bicyclists, there's the track and field, the cross-country, dog walkers, and so on. So it just has multi-use trail. We recognize this has been a very muddy, wet season. We've had record precipitation, and it is in a wetland area. Nevertheless, there are areas that always fill up with mud and puddles and so on, and it's really been muddy for weeks. So I would ask you to please fill it in with a generous load of dirt and top it with gravel. The trail needs to be lifted. And it may be that physical services or the engineering department might want to look to see how water flows, because it's a perennial problem. And I'd like to end with a word of thanks, and that is the physical services trimmed the hedge behind the flag pole in Wells Quarter Village, and we asked them to do it, and they did it. And they said it might take a while, but it was actually like the next day or two. So thank you to the town for attention to that. Now we can put our new flag up, and it won't get tattered and torn by the hedge. These things are small, but they're important, and together they form a community that is sensible to people who live in neighborhoods, who walk, who ride bikes, and so on. So they matter, and thank you to the attention to all these things.
Thank you, Cindy. Further public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Zuros, 119 Two-Red Highway. I'm going to make this 5 minutes. I got 3 issues that I wanted to talk about, and I promise I'll do them really quick. I'm going to be struggling, though, because I forgot my Cheetos at home. But the first subject that I wanted to talk to you about was the increased traffic on Two-Red Highway. The town of Newington, they've built numerous new houses in a development off of Two-Red in Griswoldville. And now they're getting ready to build another apartment building over there with 225 units in it. These additional developments have increased the traffic on Two-Red significantly. And with these new apartments, that means that's a potential of like 200 more cars coming on our street. So it's pretty heavy over there. In addition, our street has a no-through truck sign. It's never enforced. There's constantly trucks and even 18-wheelers on our road. And for those of you that don't know what that means, no through trucks, it means basically they're not supposed to use it as a cut through unless there's a delivery point in the town. And clearly these trucks are not delivering things on Two-Red Highway. The only stop sign that we do have is ignored by most motorists because our street is considered a drag strip. There's a school bus stop right next to the stop sign, and there's accidents there all the time. A few years back, there was an accident during the early morning rush hour, and a car landed right where the school bus stop was. And had that accident occurred 10 minutes later, we surely would have had a tragedy in town. So I really think that we need this. My camera, it picks up cars clearly exceeding the speed limit constantly. After midnight, you can hear cars speeding down that road. and it's only a matter of time before a really bad accident happens. I'd like to suggest that we put a stop sign by Liberty Hill and Monticello to help slow down the traffic, similar to what was done on Copper Mill, Hangdog, and Middletown Avenue years ago. I'm especially attached to that stop sign on Middletown Avenue because it was installed after one of my friends from high school was killed on that street. In addition, I am requesting that council speak to the town of Newington to discuss installing a three-way stop at Kitts Lane and 2 Rod. This intersection has become so busy, it's beyond dangerous, and I know there's been numerous accidents there. There are cars constantly speeding around the corner there. So that's issue 1. Issue 2, and I can't believe I'm going to have to say this, but I have to say it because it's really, really bothering me. The second thing I want to address was the behavior of certain town council members at a meeting where the raising of the flag was addressed. I watched from home, and I watched numerous residents, some of them being veterans, get up to speak against changing the policy. When some of the members got up to speak, I watched a few of you whispering in each other's ears and sharing notes like school children. I just want to bring to your attention that behavior was rude, and as town officials, you should be listening to what your residents have to say. Although it was obvious after watching the vote that some of you totally ignored what our residents had to say about changing the policy, one of you claimed that the flag issue was an issue that you heard about while knocking doors during a campaign time, but funny, not one of you mentioned this during your Weathersfield Life interviews during campaign time. Honestly, after hearing you speak, all of you speak, I felt as though the policy was changed because there are a couple of council members that this is a personal issue. For the record, I'd like to remind all council members you should not be running for office for personal reasons. You're here to serve all residents of the town of Weathersfield, not yourself and a select few. And for the council member who said that they didn't feel welcomed in Weathersfield when they were younger, guess what? Every student that has ever walked through Weathersfield High School system, the entire school system has felt like that at one point or another. You're not the only one. Everyone feels this way at some one point. Straight, gay, white, black, regardless of background. I know this too well. I was the Sicilian girl who went to Weathersfield High, new to the town, and was told by her Irish friend that she couldn't hang around with me anymore because my father was in the mafia. I didn't even know what the mafia was when I was in 3rd grade. And thankfully, when I went home and I told my mother what happened, she told me that it wasn't true, and explained to me how ignorant people are and they stereotype people. Hold my head up high, not hang around that girl anymore, and clearly her parents were not nice people for teaching their daughter such a thing. I personally think this world needs more people like my parents to teach their kids to be strong, not to pay attention to what others think, and not drag everyone into their issues. Too much coddling by parents nowadays. My third issue I would like to discuss is the recent car break-ins in our town in Rocky Hill. I'm hoping that the current council is paying attention to these types of crimes and start to show some support to the residents of the town. We're tired of listening to all the victim blaming by certain council members when it comes to this issue. We've locked our cars and they're still broken into. The answer to this problem is not coddling these delinquents and looking for apologies from them. The answer is to start locking them up and, if necessary, hold their parents accountable, just as they recently did with the Michigan shooter. As a council member, you should be requesting our state delegation to help us with the issue and stop passing laws that benefit criminals. When Mayor Rell was here, those of you that are now in the majority all declined to back his council when they sent a letter to the state reps. We are telling you as residents, we are tired of being victims. What is it going to take for you to listen? One of our residents to get killed? We all need to realize these delinquents are dangerous individuals. They are not misunderstood teens, and if they are stealing cars, 99% of them are past the rehabilitation point. Where are the statistics on the success stories from all these feel-good laws that have been passed to help rehab these delinquents? I've yet to hear one success story. As a matter of fact, all I'm hearing is more break-ins, and they're getting worse. I'm really having a hard time believing that you all said the big issue you heard from residents while campaigning was the flag issue. When you put the news on or go to your local Facebook pages, all you see on every town page is talk about car break-ins. It's not rocket science here, you guys. It sounds like you, as council, should be concentrating on real issues like car break-ins and not trying to fix a wrong that was done to you back in high school. Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. Further public comment? Yeah, go ahead. You're next. Thank you. Right after.
Jennifer Downey, 195 Middletown Ave. I'm here today to talk about, excuse me, transparency from this council. I think it needs to be reminded that you all work for the people, and commenting publicly on any topic opens you up to public conversation whether you support it or not. After the vote on the turf field at Mill Woods and the hypocrisy shown at the last meeting, I knew it was time to speak up. And how I decided to speak up is not dictated by anybody here but myself. Excuse me, I lost my place. As you all work for the people in this town, I'm not here to email, but would rather have my voice heard, as every resident in this town should be. Our voices and concerns should be voiced publicly and heard by other residents and our elected officials who seem to forget that they are here to be the ears of their community and their community's voice to other officials instead of acting as leaders for the community to follow and voice their own personal opinions. Those things are up to the people of this community. Now, what occurred today? Town Council Cindy Clancer commented on how she'd love to see the Cove Boathouse renovated. I commented to proclaim how TM Clancy and Rhodes to name some of the hypocrites in being concerned with the chemicals seeping into the water supplies at Kycia Farm and against a turf field, but no longer have concerns moving it immensely closer to a closer neighborhood to the town's man-made swimming pond and the infesting of our water, our town children, senior citizens, and residents swim in. I truly want to know the justification for not being at one location where it was a concern for seeping into the water, but okay for another location where it's going to be closer to our children swimming in it. And we all know children swallow water. Whether we stop them and tell them not to do it, it happens. The matter is, if not good for one site, why would it be good for another? And I want to piggyback on what Cindy said with the traffic and bus law violations. This is an increasing issue in this town, especially my street, Middletown Ave. We have put numerous requests in. We've had the speed recorders, whatever, that tells people how fast they're going. They've run my daughter's bus repeatedly. I have a special needs autistic child that is 7 years old. Her running out to the street is very possible. This is 3 years. Nothing's been done. We the people deserve the police to enforce the traffic laws which have highly been ignored. It's time to start enforcing the laws and protecting the citizens of this great town of Wethersfield. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Further public comment? Yes, please.
Okay. Laura Malali, 46 Sunset Boulevard. First, I want to be thankful that I have opportunity to share my thoughts. I want to thank the council members. I think that what you do is very courageous, and the sacrifice you made is admirable. I applaud you for serving our community. I see that later on we will be discussing the emergency ambulance services. You're going to touch on it. And so I'm thankful that I could get to say a little bit of something here tonight. I stand here tonight as someone whose life was saved by emergency medical personnel. I also have been pieced back together by skilled professionals at Hartford Healthcare, which will soon, if not already, own Aetna Ambulance Services. I understand the value of emergency medical services, EMTs and paramedics, and of course the skilled professionals that cared for me after my accident. I've experienced it on many levels. I'm very thankful for their skills. That being said, my attention was drawn to this change in the ambulance services here in town. It seems abrupt, but I'm a little naive. I have not followed all of the details. Mr. Presley wrote a lengthy petition that on the surface is quite interesting, but I personally, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people in town have not heard both sides of the coin to do a comparison. I can assure you that nothing Hartford Healthcare provides is cheap. Healthcare is very expensive, and Hartford Healthcare's costs will continue to go up and up. Whatever Weathersfield partners with will continue to rise in expense level. And you could just be assured that it's never going to be inexpensive, it's always going to be expensive. And it seems like we're asking the town manager and the council is asking the citizens to endure a expense that will only increase. And in my opinion, I'm not sure there's been a thorough evaluation and the citizens of Weathersfield are comfortable with the decision being made. In the petition, it does sound like it was a slightly abrupt decision, and as I said, we haven't heard both sides of the coin. But I do ask council to make a thorough evaluation of both services and how it will impact the town budget, because we continue to talk about and write about increased expenses. So let's give it a lot of thought and consideration before we make a complete decision on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Further public comment. Mike?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mike Barassa, 248 Dale Road. I just wanted to touch on 2 or 3 different issues. And I agree with a couple of the residents here on I had a surgical procedure earlier, so I couldn't make the last council meeting. And so I watched it on TV. That's maybe just a sign of old age because you're watching it on TV. But as I'm watching, and the vote to do an exploratory what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, to explore turf at Mill Woods, I think is a good idea. Councilman Durek brought it up. It's only exploratory, and we're going to see what goes on. The problem I had was a lot of hypocrisy from not only the board members, but a lot of the residents too. I'm disappointed that during some of the previous meetings, board members stressed their opinion on why they were so against turf, but now they're for turf. And the reason that they were for the turf is because they listened to the people. The meeting to explore it, they listened to the people. But previous council meetings before, they didn't listen to the people when it came to the flag. So I think Cindy brought it up. You are here to represent all the people, not your personal beliefs. And my good friend Kenny Lesser, I told him that, I'm going to tell you when you do a good job and when you do a bad job. So I hope when it comes time to vote whether we're going to put in turf or grass, that your true vote comes out and not party over people. Because when you look at Kycia Farms, I didn't see many of them coming up here and keep it green. I didn't see anyone in the neighborhood keep it green. Nobody. So I don't want to say it was orchestrated for elections, but it kind of was. No one's disputing it now. And I got a problem with that when personal belief takes over. And Dan O'Connor said it, maybe not so eloquently, you can't have party over people. And I think that's disgusting. And if you do decide to put in turf, and it wasn't at Kycia Farms, in my opinion, I think that will be a racist decision because you can't have it up in Highcrest area, but you could have it in some of the lower income where a lot of the black and brown community uses the pond to go swimming, and like Jen said, they're drinking that water. You know, and we have the environmentalist, Mr. Forrest, who I respect very much, voted for the turf. That, you know, we didn't have him on record as far as how he voted because he missed the meeting. So, very well played, Mr. Forrest, very well played. Very well played. Mr. Lesser stuck to his guns, said exactly how he felt, he agreed with the town plan, and at the last meeting, he agreed with it still, so you were a man of your word. I appreciate that. 2, we had our car stolen once. We had our car broken into over the last week and a half, and at first we were to blame for our car getting stolen because when key fobs came out, we weren't used to the key fob. We left it in the car. But it was our fault, not the criminals, it was the residents' fault for leaving the key fob in the car. So we're due diligent, we lock our cars. Now they don't care about if your car is locked or now. They all have the special tool, they're breaking windows. It's escalating. I'm friends with a lot of policemen throughout the state, a lot of state police, a lot of chief of police. It's escalating. They're recruiting young kids to do the dirty work of a lot of the gang members, and nothing's happening. At some point, I'm going to talk to the Democrats, you have to put pressure on our legislative people. Amy, yeah, all of them. Matt, the state senators, and I'm sorry, Councilman Clancy, nobody wants an apology letter. Nobody. The amount of money that we were out when our car got stolen, oh, you have insurance, but they don't realize you have your deductible. Now you get your house keys that have to get made. Every panel on that car was damaged, so the Carfax comes back. So we took about a $6,000 hit just off of that. But nobody cares about the victims. It's all what we're going to do for these young kids. Now, if you tell a kid to not take a cookie out of the cookie jar, and he takes that cookie, and nothing happens to him, what do you think is going to happen next? They're going to take another cookie, and it escalates. So stop with the party over people, and put people over party, even if it's not popular. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
One other comment.
You got about 40 seconds.
No, it'll be quick. And I appreciate Mayor Lesser and Bobby Granado for doing the meetings that they did as far as the budgets and so forth. I think that's great. You get the community involved. But I also wanted, is there a forum that we could set up where, you know, Russ Moran and Fonfera, they had the juvenile state's attorney here, the chief of police, because you all ask questions, but everybody here has a lot of questions that they would like to ask too, and not have to rely on the councilman. And last, but Mr. Young at one of the meetings made a comment about, you know, what we should do with the farm. I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea, but it was an idea. And Matt on the Board of Education shot him down, saying we need 4 times as much. But where I come from, 4 quarters make $1. So all ideas are good ideas. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Tom?
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walker Hill Road. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but just to recap, the town held a public forum last month that was attended by 30 residents. 30. Those 30 people filled out little yellow stickies, 3 or 4 each, I'm going to assume, because there was 100 total, of what they wanted to see done or not done with the Kycia property. From this input and a few written submissions, a preliminary concept was created by our recently hired town planner, who, for the record, is a town resident, so I'm sure he does have some background of the farm issue. Tonight's vote is to move forward with a design and planning based upon this new, improved preliminary concept of the 100 suggestions. Of the 100 suggestions, I only see a couple of new suggestions. The majority of the comments have all been aired at prior council meetings, council submissions, newspapers, and of course, they've all been vetted on social media. There is nothing, literally nothing, that the prior council didn't hear about the wants and the dislikes of the Kycia plan that we presented, that the prior council presented. The preliminary concept plan, in my opinion, is only one step short of the back of the napkin sketch that we discussed in 2018. Do you have a back of the napkin sketch of what would be done with the farm, the property, where the fields would be located? What would the layout be? And the answer at the planning and zoning hearing was, no, we don't have anything yet. That'll be worked out in the future. Well, guess what? That's not working out so good. It's only been 5 years. I want to briefly review a few highlights of the 2018 Planning and Zoning 824 agenda item. The 824 hearing, which I've previously discussed, is a pre-referendum approval, which essentially defines the reason the town desires to acquire a parcel and what that intended use for the parcel is. At this meeting, it was abundantly clear that the purpose of acquiring the Kycia property was to solve the, quote, desperate need for fields. Ms. Bagley stated, quote, more recreational space is needed in town, particularly athletic fields. The motion approved at the meeting was to give a positive referral on the statute 824 purchase of Kycia Farms property to be used for recreational purposes. Commissioner Silver amended the motion to include athletic fields because he wanted it clearly stated. There's no mention or approval for farming or agriculture as an intended use. The Kycia Farm Steering Committee misstated in their 3/17/22 executive summary the, quote, the role of the committee is to provide recommendations to the council on possible reuse scenarios of the Kycia Farm property for, quote, open space and other municipal purposes. Please note that both recreation and athletic fields were not mentioned in their executive summary. Under the committee's summary, farming is the primary use, and it's listed under other municipal purposes. The municipal uses, excuse me. The definition of municipal uses as defined by the town's bond council in a related review is, quote, as applied to acquiring land would entail only public purposes that benefit the entirety or a large portion of the municipality, such as a school, a fire station, or other municipal building. What this means is that agriculture and farming are not a land use covered by the referendum. The town must abide by the referendum that was approved by the voters. Uses other than that was presented and approved at the 824 hearing would require going back out to referendum. Just as it would as if, in my case, my particular case, I questioned whether you could sell some of the land to raise some funds, to pay for some of these fields and such. And bond council ruled that no, You can't do that. You would have to go back out to referendum. This is the same exact scenario. I have included the minutes of the meeting for each of you to review. It should be in your packets. I didn't want to bore you with reading the whole thing again. I'm unable to provide you with the bond council review dated April 29th, 22, but it's available to the council. It's protected by executive privilege, attorney-client privilege, but I'm sure the town manager can provide that to all of you. I would suggest that you table this item tonight until you've had time to digest the documents. This is important stuff. This is not, oh, we're going to come in here, new council, boom, 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 we're doing it our way. All I heard during the run-up to the election was how the prior council wasn't listening to the people. Oh, we need an open forum.
5 minutes, I'm going to ask you to
Yep, I'll wrap up. We need an open forum. We have an open forum, 30 people show up, and boom, we got a plan, let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Further public comment? Anyone? Hearing none, thank you. We'll move on. Council reports. Does any councilor have a report they want to give tonight? I don't see any. Mickey, did you go to RDA? Do you want to report, or is there anything new on there?
There was nothing new.
Nothing new. Okay. Real quickly, I'll just report, and I gave some of this on the Veterans Commission. May 25th is Memorial Day. All councilors are invited. I know we have a lot of new councilors. I hope you will walk in the parade. The theme this year is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, June 6th. It steps off on Saturday around 8:45. Other things with the Veterans Committee, we're going to do a separate date to honor Dan Camilleri. It won't be on Memorial Day, but a separate date. And we will be hosting, the Veterans Commission, will be hosting a coffee for veterans to talk about different veterans benefits, and that will actually be held on Armed Forces Day, which is May 18th. If there's no other council reports, then I will go to council comments. Any councilor wishes to make a comment? Councilor Durk.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick announcements. One, this coming Wednesday, we have, so this is a month of fasting for Muslims in our community, and on Wednesday at Wethersfield High School, we'll have a break of fast as a community. So anybody looking to learn more about the faith, about the citizens, their neighbors, they're welcome to come at 6:30 this Wednesday at the high school. Next week is the holidays, the end of the fasting month. So for all of our Muslim citizens, I would like to wish them a happy holiday, Eid Mubarak, to all of our Muslim neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Durk. Any other councilor comments? Councilor Carmel.
Thank you, Mayor. I missed a really interesting meeting a couple weeks ago, and although some people put it really eloquently and how, their thoughts about that meeting, I would like the opportunity to do the same. I have literally 16 pages of notes, and then once I...
You have no 5-minute rule,
Yeah,
Councilor Carmel.
I was going to just keep going and thought, what, bullet points are better. So I will try not to hold everybody up, but I really was so upset. I was upset I missed the meeting, but I was across the country and thought zooming in at 3 o'clock in the morning wasn't a good idea for me. And having everybody vote on putting a synthetic turf field, and as far as I'm aware, and after I read the minutes, and Mike, I did not watch it on TV, so maybe I'm not that old, it was not exploratory. You voted to put, correct me if I'm wrong, you voted to put the synthetic turf field at Mill Woods, correct?
We voted to move the funding from Kycia to Mill Woods. That included a turf field. It's still to be explored by town staff, and there's a whole process that goes from now, but you are correct.
Okay, thank you. So the word hypocrisy keeps getting floated around about this, and it's a really struggle not to call that out. Kycia Farms became an incredibly hot political topic during the election. the Republicans were demonized for what we wanted to do to Kycia Farms, when we were just following what the town had voted on, what was put forth in the referendum, what came out of all the committee meetings, what came out of all the studies, the land use surveys, all of these things, the planning meetings, the public town halls we had. There was so much input that we got that we actually thought putting forth that plan while we had the opportunity to put ARPA funds. Sorry, I'm my way through that.
I want to move that
I
a
know.
little.
I was trying to be loud and clear because I get lots of comments. I'm so soft-spoken. So the previous council set aside money for Kycia Farms, for a field and for parking, which was going to address all the issues and concerns we felt. So now we have all of that money being shifted to Mill Woods. So what's left for Kycia? Nothing. There's no money left at Kycia Farms to do what the people had voted on. So here we go, another year of nothing getting done. Yes, we're voting on a concept plan, and thank you for putting concept plan on this, town manager, and not master plan, as what happened when we were coming up with a concept plan, and it threw everybody into a tizzy. The Park and Rec Board, yes, voted unanimously to put a synthetic turf field at Mill Woods. According to Kathleen Bagley herself, yes, we can take that into consideration, but by no means do we have to listen to it as the council. And I do always appreciate everyone's input. But having said that, going to those meetings and hearing from all the community sports leaders, I heard an overwhelming need and desire for a synthetic turf field in town. But not one person, after all those meetings we had here and in the Park and Rec meetings, said where it was supposed to be. Again, being demonized, being told that the Republicans were going to kill children by putting synthetic turf field at Kycia. We were going to somehow poison Mill Woods' water supply by the runoff, leaving Kycia, ending up at Mill Woods. People were going to ingest it. It was going to be horrific. We were going to irrevocably destroy the environment. Now, please be aware, my stance on synthetic turf was, if you really want to know, I can leave or take it. I can really, it doesn't, either way, if the town is happy, I'm happy. But doing this, I realize I'm not going to make everybody happy. But to have people like, well, okay, now that it's at Mill Woods, it's fine. How is that okay? It's absurd to me, actually. And where's the outrage from the same people that were saying this? Where's the outrage? They're okay with it, just not in my backyard. That is the epitome of that statement where people get upset and say, not in my backyard, but it's okay over there. So all of this is something made a comment about exploring, the exploratory at Mill Woods. Maybe we should explore other options with Kycia. Maybe we should explore putting, a beautiful school campus on that property. It's a beautiful property. Get Highcrest out of the water, get it out of the wetlands. It is a municipal purpose. Or maybe we talk about maybe putting it back to referendum and sell it. Sell it, be done with it, pay our taxpayers back the money that we've wasted for the past 5 years on a property we're never going to use. And that's where I am with that. So thank you for allowing me to give my 2 cents about the last meeting I missed. I try not to miss another one when there's a really good topic.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further council comment? Anyone? No? I'll just mention, separate from this, that a couple events. Last week, I attended the fire department's annual fundraiser. I saw Councilor Bailey, Chief Bailey. I'm not sure if anyone else. There was a great event, very well attended, as it always is, and appreciate everything that the fire department does. And I'll mention, related to that, second, I had a meeting with the new chief, about recruitment. So just so most of you know, but it's a good thing for everyone to know. We had about, Chief Bailey would know this better than me, but we used to have about 100 volunteer firemen. We're down to about 50. So it's a serious issue in town. So if any of you know folks who might want to be volunteer firefighters, it's a big issue in town. And I know that it's going to be part of our budget coming up. Some things the town manager's budget to help in recruiting and help with our existing firefighters. And we need to support them and make sure that they have the service they need and that we have more firefighters. And many of you may not know this, but we have the oldest continuous volunteer fire department in the United States. Goes back to 1803, and if my math is right, that's 221 years. So we need more firefighters and anything we can do to support them. So just wanted to mention those couple events. If there's no further council comments, I'm going to move on to the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just very quickly, you all have at your position the proposed budget document per the town charter that was provided to you all today, and it will be available for all citizens on our website tomorrow, and we'll also have copies available for anybody that would like to get copies. So with that, this begins in earnest our budget process. The next major milestone is on April 15th. We have our budget public hearing where both Mike Emmett will once again present the school budget. I will present the proposed town budget you have before you, and then we'll begin our budget workshop process for the citizens. Different from previous years, the budget workshops will be done in this room and will be streamed and televised, so you can all actually utilize that process and make it as transparent as possible. So with that, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Town Clerk, Sue?
Okay, I have just a couple announcements. First, I wanted to let everybody know that all the town council agendas, agenda packets, and videos and minutes from the past meetings can now be easily found on the Town of Weathersfield website. From the home page, you just go and you click on agendas, and then the minutes tab will lead the users to a simple way to connect to all of these items. When viewing a meeting video, you can now click directly on the agenda, and that will bring you right to whatever you are most interested in without having to scroll through everybody and everything. So it'll make it a lot easier, and it's more user-friendly. And then tomorrow, April 2nd, is the presidential preference primary, and the town clerk's office has been managing the absentee ballot voting, as well as supporting the elections department with the new early voting option. So, and that seemed to go well, and we did get back 29 of the 39 absentee ballots that were issued.
Thank you, Sue. And just for the public's benefit, those here and those watching at home, we have decided to have police officers, armed police officers. This was an issue that came up over the last few days, and we got a lot of input about it. At the two polling places, two schools where there'll be public polling places, that's Webb Elementary and Emerson Williams. So tomorrow, there was some concerns about kids going to school not protected, so just want the public to know that may not know that we will have officers at the schools in the polling place. Moving on, I'll move to, there's no bids to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Zambrello. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. There's no approval of ordinance item K. Item L1, Kycia Farm Concept Plan. Do we have a motion?
Are we going to have discussion first, or are you going to do a
Deputy
motion?
Mayor Forrest?
I'm going to move to postpone this item until the next regular meeting. I'm looking for a second, but I'd ask to summarize.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor. After reviewing this particular item on the agenda, I had a couple concerns that I wanted to continue to take a look at. With the particular plan that kind of came out in this particular instance, it appeared to be limited to directly to the borders of the sort of Kycia property that came upon from the referendum. But in reality, those borders don't exist anymore because it's merged with all the rest of the property we own, namely the school and the rest of it. So I thought that it was an idea to, as we move down this path of figuring out how to handle not just Kycia Farm, but all the land that's adjacent to that property, and especially as it relates to the schools and a new school that's being proposed somewhere in that area, right, on Highcrest. And I thought if we took a little bit more of a global and total look at it, that we could come up with a more comprehensive type looking, maybe master plan, or at least take a look at the future concerns as it relates to the ball fields that are already there and the soccer fields and so on. So this particular look was just at that property, but that property now is a much larger property. So I was hoping to have a little bit more of a introspective and elaborative look at that whole piece of land in its totality, and we don't really have that motion that was presented here today in the agenda packet was specific to driving toward that particular specific plan. I thought we could take a little bit of a larger look at it. So that's why I'm moving to postpone until next meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Further council comment? Councilor Timbrow.
I would just like to say that I agree with that. I think that's a great idea. I feel like I wouldn't truly be sure what I would be voting on tonight, just given the abstractness of the concept plan. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Further council comment? Councilor Carbone.
Thank you, Mayor. I also agree with Councilor Forrest. I think it's great to postpone this till these peas are killing me, till we can get some more information. I did have a lot of questions about this plan, so I guess we can
absolutely
wait and hopefully we can have another discussion. I'm not sure if you're interested in having conversations with this side of the table as it moves forward with the plan. That would be helpful.
Yes, is the answer.
So I can
Also
save my
through the
questions.
town manager, you can direct your questions to, but
To
yes.
them. And so, yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Further council comment? Anyone? I'll just mention, I'll be supporting the motion too. Not only does it give us an opportunity as counselors, it gives the public a chance to give us more input, more ideas, more thoughts. We do want to come to a decision. We will come to a decision, but we want to do it thoughtfully, and we want to make sure that we're listening to each other as well as the public, and then we will make a decision. Not everyone will be happy, just like any decision we make. It's not going to please everyone. We'll try and make the best decision we can. And I've said this before, but I want to say it again. It is my full hope and confidence that in a few years, that property will be a gem for all of Wethersfield, that we'll be proud of that property, that property will have a lot of the things that many people have talked about, and they can bring their kids, and for generations, we're going to have a property there that we can all be proud of. I believe that, I'm confident that, I hope that, but we do need a little more time as counselors and also for the public. Perhaps we'll be ready in May, we'll be ready when we're ready, but I'm also going to support the motion to table. Is there any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor of tabling?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is tabled. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to new business item M1, Millwoods Master Plan Update. Do I have a motion? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the council to authorize the town manager to contract with a consultant to update the Millwoods Park Master Plan to include the proposed synthetic turf, multi-use athletic field, and associated infrastructure, as well as other park elements previously approved since the original master plan was developed.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Zambrano. Discussion. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. I've been reviewing, and we've all reviewed the Millwoods Master Plan for a long time now. It's about 20 years old. And over that time, that particular plan had its particular needs of the community. There were a different number of football teams back then, less. There's more now. There's a different number of baseball teams. There's more then, less now. And it's time for this complete master plan to the whole park to have a new, fresh look. I was told over years, many times, that people wanted to see more trees because too many were being knocked down. There's a chance for planting it and to continue to have the park-like feel, in addition to all of the athletic needs, which we've gone back and forth millions of times about. So I think if we take a good comprehensive look and we're ask some experts to kind of come in, just like they did with the beautiful Millwoods Master Plan. If you've ever seen it, it's a beautiful diagram plan, exactly where things could be. including some possible improvements, probably to traffic and safety along the way, along with recreational plans that we want in a current, state-of-the-art municipal athletic facility that we can be proud of. This is the steps in order to start to do that. Sure, it talks about one field, which we've gone back and forth about a lot, but there's so much more. How many soccer and multi-use fields do we need? How many baseball fields do we? Can we have the baseball field be located in sort of a similar area? What about concessions and bathrooms and shade and walking trails that people can be proud of, and a pickleball court, which is the new and up-and-coming sport, among other things, and lacrosse? So these are all things that can be thoughtfully laid out and designed in a state-of-the-art center of our town, athletic and recreational complex. And I believe that we can do it, and with good, proper planning, along with some of the money that we've already put in, I'm happy and I hope that we can pass this particular motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Further council comment? Councilor Bailey.
Mr. Manager, how much? We'll basically be going out to bids once we get the approval to move forward with it, so we'll bring that number back to you if it's over the threshold, which would be around the $33,000 amount. If it's less than that, we'll bring it back informationally, let you know.
I mean, although said eloquently, I just think it's just a way to find a place for this field.
That's a big component of it. That's
Yeah,
a big
which-
field, and it's gonna require some shifting around of some assets out there. But there's also been, if you were to look at the original plan, there's certain things that aren't precisely the way it was planned, and that's any kind of master plan is like that for a large facility like this. The initial concept's there, you kind of go along, and the needs change as you go, and different things happen. So now it's time for a refresh of this plan, because that park continues to evolve along with the needs of the town.
Councilor Bailey, you have the floor. Good?
No, I mean, I'm not going to support anything that's not a Kycia, but go ahead.
Oh.
Any other
No,
council
I think he
comment?
said go ahead.
No, you had the floor, but.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Any other council comment? Councilor Carbone.
I have several questions. So the new, my God, my brain just shut down. So the new master plan, is that going to, and we can't just amend the original one? We can't, or is this, we want
No,
to?
it's basically going to be a refresh of the plan that we have, because like I said, certain elements are different than what was originally proposed, so they'll make those adjustments. But then the big piece is going to be if and where, a multi-use field could go, and what that does to the rest. So what additional parking would be required adjacent to it? Would we need bathrooms next to it? Those types of things, and there's the associated infrastructure with that. So it would include those elements.
But
A lot
still
of what's
the
in the current plan will come forward, and just update it with the things that have changed since then, and then what's being proposed.
So from what I remember of seeing the old master plan, there was a potentially, and please correct me, because I don't want to be wrong, that they had considered putting a traffic from Griswold and parking behind the houses up there. Would that continue to be on the master plan?
I don't know specifically what elements that haven't been constructed will or will not be. It's really bringing, because a lot has changed since that, over
Yeah.
20 years. So it would be up to the consultant that we hire to make recommendations towards that. And there'll be drafts that'll be brought before this body and to the public as well, prior to anything being finalized.
Because Kathy Begley had mentioned to me that the proposed site for the new synthetic turf field would eliminate two of the Little League. So you talk about Little League field, so you're talking about shifting these fields. Where would those fields go? Or again, wait for the master plan? Got it.
It would all be just
All right.
spitballing at this point until they actually lay it out and see what can be repositioned within that site. Some may need to go to a Kycia or to another property to make it
We
work.
don't have funds to put it. So how about the turf farm, the adjacent turf farm? Are we in discussions with them about utilizing some of their property? Has anything come forth with that?
We've had initial conversations with them to let them know we're going to be going through this process and that they will be approached. There's some of our own property that currently is being utilized by them that we would need to take back as part of this process. There might be ways we can work together to make sure that line is straight, because right now it's not a straight line. It's kind of a jagged edge that wouldn't be beneficial for either of us. So we might be able to work out something to redo that line.
And they haven't come out against the synthetic turf field being adjacent to their farm?
this is all very new, so I don't think they've had that opportunity yet, but they'll be part of this process, obviously.
Perfect. And then also, I'm assuming that the residents on Griswold will also be included and invited to be part of this process to discuss any changes that are happening in their backyards.
Yes, there'll be a public participation process as part of this plan.
I know it's just hard I'm hoping, like, I'm going to put my faith into this person, whatever we're doing, to come up with something that would benefit all parties, but we won't know until we see it. So I just hope that for all the reasons why I think that field should not go there, I hope they're all addressed and taken care of. But we won't know until we know.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further council comment? Councilor Timbrow.
Thank you. I just had a couple quick questions as well. Just for clarification with you said if it was more than the 33,000, is that purely for the consultant? Is that what you're talking about, or is that the plan in general? What was the?
For the consultant work. So anytime we do a bid, if it's over that threshold, it has to come to this body for approval. Anything below that, we can move forward with a vote like this that gives us the okay to move forward. We can do that. We would need to bring it back, but if it's over that amount, we would have to bring it back as a bid.
Okay. And are we using the same ARPA money to do the update at Mill Woods? Is it?
Yes, it's part of the layout for this field would be to use that money as part of that design, and in this whole effort, it would be to do a general refresh of the Mill Woods plan as part of that.
Okay. And in terms of, as we're talking about moving forward with a synthetic field, are there plans or talk about doing an environmental study on the impact of that at Mill Woods? Has that, maybe, I don't know if that's been done in the past, but is there?
That'll be a later phase of this. This is really on the landscape architecture side of it, where things could go, how the layout would be. In terms of the actual construction of the field, then that would be another component that we would absolutely do as part of any kind of RFP, would be to make sure the environmental implications of whatever we do choose are clearly outlined and recommendations made based upon that. There's a lot of new technology that's out there versus when, say, Catone was originally built and even when it was last redone. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get new information about what the impact will truly be, but that'll be part of the end result of what you get before any field was built.
Okay. I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. Further council comment? I'll just add that the Mill Woods Master Plan is 22 years old. It was done in 2002. I've read the entire thing. It is well-written, but it is out of date. It needs refreshed, particularly as we look at putting another field there. And I'll also say that it's my view that Mill Woods is our sports complex, that people from all over town and other towns have been going there playing sports for years and years, and it badly needs a refresh. It badly needs an update, so we have the high-quality fields and complex there that all of us can be proud of, because right now we're not. And I hear it time and time again, we're below what other towns have, and those of you that have children that have played sports there and in other towns know what I'm talking about. So we need to do a couple things. We need to maintain a little bit better the fields we have, and as I've said before up here, we had a recommendation February 2023. We need 2 to 4 new fields to meet the demand. We need to meet that demand, and it is my hope that as we do this refresh of the Mill Woods Master Plan, and we come up with something that we're all going to be happier with, because we hear a lot that we're not up to par with some of the other towns, and we want to be not only up to par, but have things that we're proud of, our fields for our kids. So if there is no further council comment, Councilor Carbone.
So would it be, while we're going out to bid with this person, who's coming up with a concept for Mill Woods, would it be appropriate to just say, hey, why don't you take a look at Kycia? See what your thoughts are for that, and come up with a master plan for Kycia, instead of us scrambling with little diagrams at meetings trying to come up with something. Because if we're putting so much stock, I mean, you're not asking the community to come up and be like, where would we like to put a fair at Mill Woods? But yet at Kycia, it seems to be the way it's going.
Well, no, that's always been the plan for Kycia, and that will be the plan for Kycia. But before we can go and bring someone in to do this next step, like at Mill Woods, we have a good sense of where things should be, and we can give them guidance. At Kycia, I have no idea until it's approved and you all give us guidance, and that's really all we were looking for with the Kycia plan, is saying, these are the basic elements we need, and these are the general areas we think it should go, but then we would go out to bid, bring in a consultant similar to what we're doing at Mill Woods. We can't do them together, they're very different properties, so they'd have to be done on their own, but that's the exact process we will absolutely use. We're not going to design it ourselves. I think a lot of the pushback we got back when the previous council approved the last plan was that we maybe showed too many specifics. And when people will say it's a concept plan, but then they see parking spaces and driveways and everything was all laid out on the plan, they felt that was a done deal. It's not. Just like the Millwoods master plan wasn't a done deal. Things evolve over time. So what I'm looking for from a staff perspective for Kycia from the council is just direction on, these are the elements we want. This is the basic ratio of the elements we want, whether it's a third, a third, a third, like the previous plan was, or something different. And these are the general areas we need. Then we will come back to you with a proposal to hire the consultant to do exactly that, develop this master plan, and then move from there.
So we were told when we were doing that this was a concept. Somebody, I'm not pointing fingers, put master plan on top of that.
That's what it is. Ultimately,
But this is concept. It's a concept plan, and that's what we were trying to do, to say a third, and a third. This was some of the elements that we wanted at that point.
That's all we need, and we would have taken what
had.
was approved before and provided that to a consultant to say, all right, does this work? Because they're the experts in this. They're going to say, you said to put the field here, that's not a good place for the field, and this is why.
Okay.
Councilor Carbone, anything else? Shelley, Councilor Carbone, are you good?
Do I not look good?
No,
No,
I think
I
Councilor
appreciate
Timbo
it.
raised her hand, but I didn't know
I
if
do
you- are you
appreciate it.
done?
I'm just trying, I don't want to bring Kycia into Millwoods because we're voting on Millwoods, and I'm trying not to bring Kycia, but I'm just trying to understand why we couldn't
All fair
do the
question.
same thing.
All
That's
fair.
all.
Councilor Timbo, did you have another question?
I did,
Yeah, please.
So I just wanted to say, I don't want it to be misrepresented that we're not in favor or supportive of a refresher of Millwoods. Like, this clearly needs to happen. We want more fields. We want our town to be up to date. I think that the questions and the concerns is that, Insanity's doing the same thing over and over and not making a change, and we don't want to be in the same position that we were in with Kycia, with Millwoods. So I just wanted to point that out, that the point is not to be difficult or not supportive. It's just not wanting to go down the same path to have the same end result. And we saw and heard from countless residents about issues or failures or gaps, whatever it was. We're not perfect. We try and, govern and make the best decisions we can make for the residents. But to avoid as many of those as possible, so it's more palatable for everyone, is the purpose behind our questions and concerns. So I just don't want it to be displayed that it's like Kycia didn't pass, so Millwoods is going to be an issue. That's not it at all. We've talked a lot, and it really is to just try and avoid as many potholes as possible and to come together for what makes the most sense. So I just felt that needed to be voiced.
Thank you, Councilor Timbo. Appreciate those comments. Further council comment? If not, I'm going to call for a vote on the Millwoods Master Plan refresh. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
So do you have that? Do you need a roll, or do you have it, Sue?
No, I think you meant nay, no?
Nay. Well, you vote against it, right?
Yeah, nay.
So you have Councilor Bailey as a no?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along is item M2, amend the charge of the Advisory School Building Committee that was created by motion of the Town Council on February 5th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thank you, Mayor. I move this council to amend the duties and responsibilities of the Advisory School Building Committee that was created by motion of the Town Council passed on February 5th, 2024, by adding a new second sentence to the adopted motion, assigning additional duties and responsibilities as follows. The committee shall also be responsible for planning, oversight, and construction of any new or renovated elementary schools.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Durek. Any discussion? Councilor Bailey.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a problem with the wording, oversight and construction of, excuse me, any new renovated elementary schools. How long is this committee open for?
This committee is going to work alongside the Board of Education. It is not to take power from them, but to collaborate with them. It is going to help us get to the referendum. A referendum date is not determined. I don't know when it's going to be. If I had to guess, it would be sometime next year, 2025, but I don't know, and I'm not one making that decision. Ultimately, the whole council will decide on the language for the referendum and the date of the referendum.
Oh, I understand that. I'm more worried about the committee. You know, how long is this committee for?
This committee is, so the plan is tonight, if we pass this, that we will have another meeting in April 15th, a special meeting to appoint the 7 members of the committee. They will work on the HVAC, which we already passed, and then they will work on the school projects, building project, and they'll work alongside the board. How long is it open for? It's open until we get the project completed. I mean, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Town Manager, we still have the high school project building committee. It has not been completely closed down. Is that correct?
It's true, and that's due to the fact that the state hasn't closed out that project yet from a fiscal standpoint, so they're still doing audits and things of that nature. So technically, that committee still exists, even though some of the members have moved on or passed on, unfortunately. I think in conversations with Councilor Bailey earlier before the meeting, what he might be getting at is, you know, we at the meeting, we went as a group to South Windsor and met their group, and they've done 4 elementary schools over a period of 10 years. And to Councilor Bailey's point, you know, is this really about the first referendum, whether that's 1 school, 2 schools, whatever it might be, and put a timeline on that versus telling them they're going to be bound to this committee for 10 years, and I think that's what he's getting at. That could be a big ask of somebody, because it does say any new or renovated elementary schools, and so that was his concern that was raised, and I think it's a valid concern.
So it is a valid concern, and we can always replace or change out members if someone leaves or doesn't want to do it anymore, or for whatever reason. The idea, Councilor Bailey, is the committee would serve until we complete the project. If we do
a project, or all the schools, all the renovation, you know what I mean? It's that could be another. You know, we may not start one of the schools for 5 or 6 years.
It may take a long time, and this committee will be appointed to do the whole project. They can step off at any time, but they, just like any of us, could potentially step off at any time. But it is not designed to just do for the first one. Now, there is some question, are we going to have multiple referendums? Last time, as you remember, we had 1 referendum. Ultimately, that's actually our decision. What is the language of the referendum, the timing of the referendum, or referendums? But to your question, and thank you for clarifying, it is for as long as we need the projects. So I hear you. It's a little open-ended with that. Good question. Further council comments or questions? I don't know. I don't know who's first.
Oh, go ahead.
So
Councilor Carbone.
I guess what you had made, thank you, Mary. I think you made a comment about getting the committee together. Is that typical? If you could explain to people, is it typical to put forth a committee before you have a plan, before you have any kind of funding, before you have any idea of what the scope of the project is going to be?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'll take that one. Different towns do different things. I'll read in short the charter that talks, or the portion of the charter, Section 512, Building Committee, Weathersfield Town Charter. The council shall appoint an advisory building committee for each capital improvement project for which a referendum is required, and may appoint an advisory committee for capital improvement projects for which a referendum, not requiring a referendum. Each committee so appointed shall consist of 7 members, each of whom shall have expertise as the council may deem necessary and appropriate. The council shall establish the duties and obligations of each committee and the term for which such committee shall exist. The committee shall choose one of its own members to serve as chair of the committee. All building committees should have the authority to conduct public meetings, public hearings, and such powers as generally granted by law or by charter, or to town committees as specifically granted by the town council. So I don't know if that answers it, but that's what's in the charter.
A little bit. Yeah, thank you. So it said the expertise, as we get to deem what their expertise is, which is appropriate, right? So we've stated forth that one of our committee members has to have building experience. Is that correct? So just one.
At least one.
At least one. So it's possible that only one person is going to have building experience.
It is possible.
Right. So do we have any, what's the word I'm looking for? Mike, you were at a loss for words, now I'm at a loss for words. Is there accountability for these people? Say they're not doing the best job or that we deem appropriate. Say they're, whatever, timelines, budgets, whatever because they're going to be in charge of a lot of that stuff. What is our recourse with them if we feel that they're not doing a great job? And
Good question.
Who's going to be monitoring that?
We are the final arbiter of that. We decide.
The council here.
Again, yes, the council. We decide when and if a referendum is, what the language is. We take their recommendation. They'll make recommendations to the Board of Ed. The board will decide on what plans. They'll send them to us. We decide, though. We are the ultimate authority, again, on what the language is of the referendum, the date of the referendum. So yes, we are, if you will, a check and balance. I think you're asking me
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. That's not a check and balance. That's just knowing that referendum and timelines. So I just, yeah.
Well, we have the final say of all
So
that.
who is evaluating that? Are us going to be like, oh, let me see the books, let me see how that's going, where are your timelines? Are we going to be having meetings as this process is going through are they going to be putting in reports? How are we going to know that these people are on the ball and know what they're doing? This is an extremely expensive project. And whatever project it's going to be, I don't care if we're doing one school, two schools, one renovation, whatever it is, we're all going to be paying for it. So I feel like there has to be some level of.
I'll just say they're accountable to us, but if anybody else wants to weigh in on that, it
Yeah.
may have been part of the past
Anybody else
building
know?
committee. I don't know if the deputy mayor,
Matt?
you were part of the past one 10 years ago, but in terms of being on the council, but they're accountable to us as the governing authority of the town of Weathersfield.
Mayor, if I may, you can also, as
I
part
happen
of.
to hop in, but I think he's
Yeah,
probably more
please,
appropriate.
somebody.
Mr. Town Manager.
As part of their charge that you set, you would basically dictate at that point, and you will report back to us on a quarterly basis with financials or how the project's going. You can determine all that up front, and then there's always going to be the oversight of both the finance departments for both the Board of Ed and the town will be monitoring it throughout the process as well.
And I should have mentioned this, Shelley, Councilor Carbone. It's recommended that the town council has a liaison to that, and that the Board of Education has a liaison, and can either attend those meetings or get information from those meetings, and we will proceed accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other council comment and question? No, then we'll call the vote. Oh, Councilor Timber. You gotta jump up and
Thank you. So this committee is, I just want to make sure I have this correct. This was originally what we had passed for purely being the HVAC committee, right? Okay. So I think that when we approved that, we were approving that based off of the fact that it was specifically HVAC. And I remember, and I think we can go back and look, that part of our question or concern was that it didn't have to do with the schools and planning and in general, and that was going to be more of a public forum type of deal until we actually had specifics or another referendum or something else. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that, again, when we voted on the original committee, it was specifically for HVAC, and the concern is that it would kind of, avalanche into something a bit more, which it has. So my concerns or questions with this is you had mentioned that the Weathersfield High School committee was still open, and does that include Hanmer as well, or are those two separate committees? Because there was a committee for.
By the language of the formation, it did include Hamner at the time that it was formed, but Hamner never went forward. They were only.
Okay, and that's still, I realize it's by default, but those are still open, correct?
Right. We're actually working with the state now to close that project out so that we can officially disband that, but we hope to have that completed in the next couple of months,
So do we know if it's even, is it even legal to have two building committees that are addressing the same thing essentially?
It wouldn't be, we don't know which school is going to move forward or which schools are going to move forward until that time happens. Once that does happen, this council will make that determination, and at that time, if Hamner is one of them, then this council would have to take that responsibility away from the other committee and provide it to this committee, if that were to happen.
Okay, so there's no conflict in having a general advisory school committee with a committee already open that's not technically closed by the state?
Again, if that was like an active committee that was fully functioning and working right now, you could consider using them instead, but several of the members have moved on, like I said, so it wouldn't make sense to do that, and this project is very, the high school project goes back several years. So I think it's appropriate to create a new committee. I wouldn't use that committee. If Hamner's one of the first, or is the first to go forward, then you would probably need to adjust the language to say that that responsibility is coming off of that other committee, because they never did it, frankly, so.
So I realize it's not I realize it's not technically active, but it could be really at any moment because it still exists, right?
You'd have to reappoint members, and you'd have to do a lot to formalize it, could be, yeah.
Okay. And then is there any type of precedent for creating a committee before there's an actual project that's identified? Just saying, because this is again, has morphed into something that's incredibly specific, and I'm concerned, Councilor Bailey brought up oversight in construction. I'm concerned about the entire quote there that says the committee shall also be responsible for planning, oversight, and construction of any new or renovated elementary schools, and in no place does that reference that the Board of Ed still has full control, which I know that they're supposed to, right, when it comes to planning. So I guess I kind of went in two different places there, but the language is concerning for me because it brings up this committee being responsible for all of that when we don't actually have a specific project that is identified. We have something that's failed, but we don't have anything that has actually been voted on. This is what we're doing, and let's have a committee to put that into place. So I think that, again, it's just the wording is a concern to me.
Thank you, Councilor Timbrow. So this committee will make recommendations to do its work to the board on the different plans. They will come back to the council as the final arbiter of that. This committee will begin, if this is approved, are eligible to begin their work on the HVAC, and then potentially, because of this motion, if it passes, to begin working alongside the board in collaboration of the school building projects.
So they're going to be making recommendations. I'm sorry. I'm just.
Councilor Timbrow, you're fine. Just go ahead.
We don't, right now, there is not a referendum, right? We don't have that, okay? So
when we, excuse me for interrupting, but you asked this. When we had the high school, this committee was appointed before the referendum, years and years ago.
Right, but we just said it's two different committees. It's no longer the high school committee.
No, but you asked about, I think you asked, and I'm sorry if I got it wrong. It was the committee appointed before the actual referendum.
Right. So, but what I'm understanding now is this is a new committee that's being formed, because it doesn't matter that we have one that's open, that's eventually going to be closed, and it's nearly impossible for that to be up and running because new members would have to be appointed. So it's two different things. We have the Wethersfield High School, that committee, and we have the referendum that failed, and now we have a new committee, but we don't have a referendum happening. So this committee, I guess I'm trying to understand the purpose of the committee. Yeah. I know it's outlined here, but without a referendum, what is the purpose when it doesn't really matter right at this time?
So many folks in town, and I'll take myself as one of those folks, feel this is one of the most important issues in our town for the next several years, and maybe generations after that, long before after I'm involved here, is to rebuild the schools, and that we have something beautiful and special for the next group of kids and young people, and I feel it's one of the most important issues to rebuild the schools. So in figuring out the best way to do that is getting a group to work alongside, like we did with the high school, work alongside the school board in collaboration with the board to develop this process and to, as said in the word, to do some oversight and to work with the board in collaboration to get us, to get to the council, to get us to a point where we can have a referendum or referendums on these elementary schools. Our kids need it, our future depends on it. So I'm one of those who believe strongly that this is really important that we do it, and this is the process that well, I'm going to be supporting this, I feel we need to do. So I don't know if that answers that, but.
No, so I appreciate all your comments, and I would just like to throw out there that I completely agree and support that the schools have to be, I have 3 children, 2 of them are in Hanmer currently, 1 of them will be going next year, so I have a vested interest in the schools being done, and I think we've heard time and time, I mean, when we saw the presentation, that it is something that needs, I don't think there's any argument there. At all, actually, and I agree with a lot of what you said. My concern with this is that, given the wording and given the fact that now we are transforming an established committee into an advisory school building committee that doesn't explicitly say anything about terms, nothing about working in conjunction with the Board of Education, and has the language that's responsible for planning, oversight, and construction of any new or renovated elementary schools, the concern for me is that it goes beyond a group of people getting together to, that are, have some type of a liaison, or it goes beyond just the general thoughts and feelings of people coming together because they have a vested interest in the schools. Now it's like in statute, and just like the HVAC morphed, this, in my opinion, can also morph and have more weight and decision-making power than what is in front of us right now. And that concerns me as a resident and as a town council member who believes in redoing the schools.
Points are well taken. We'll be clarifying roles. We'll be making appointments at an upcoming meeting as set forth in the charter in terms of seven appointments. And it's, in my view, and you agreed with it, it's imperative that we start the work on this as soon as possible, and that this group work alongside the board in collaboration with the board to help develop the plans, get it to us, to hopefully get it to referendum so we can get the schools of the future. I mean, maybe there's a difference of opinion on the language. This is what we're bringing forth. Obviously, if you don't agree with it, you vote that way. But points well taken.
Okay. Thank you. And so just for clarification, there is no precedent for this. Is the first time this is happening?
No,
or
I'm sorry.
Before a referendum, just...
Yeah, sorry if I didn't answer that correctly. The high school referendum building committee was produced before.
But they knew they were working on the high school. Right.
And yes, and this group that we're appointing will know that they're working on the elementary schools. It's in
all of them.
Okay.
Can I make
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Councilor Carbone, you have the floor if you want it. If not, I'm going to go over here. Councilor Dirk.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a very simple thing. Instead of me coming out and saying, I think I know what's the best for our schools, we're going to get a group of people who actually know what needs to be done, who's going to do all the groundwork, who's going to give all the suggestions to us. They're not going to make any decisions, and if at any point of time we see that they're taking authority or from the Board of Ed, you can always step in and do what we need to do. This is simply saying, let's bring the experts, let them tell us, do we need 5 schools, 3 schools, 1 school, whatever the case is. I'm not the one who can make that decision without having any experience with that. So have the people come in, tell us what's the best thing to do, have the Board of Ed agree with that or tell us something else, and then we could all come down and say, well, does this make sense or not? The thing is, we want to do what's best for Wethersfield schools. We want to hopefully have the referendum that's going to pass instead of us coming up with a referendum that makes no sense, that's going to fail again, and then tell the group of experts, well, this is what we passed on, let's make it work. No, we want to pass something that's actually going to make sense and it can actually work. And that's what the purpose of this is. Again, we all need to have some knowledge and experience, but at the same time, we're not going to be as experts as these people on the committee who are going to work for months and tell us what's the best thing that they can probably do in Wethersfield.
Thank you, Councilor Dirk. Further council comment? Deputy Mayor Forrest.
Thanks. This particular committee makes a lot of sense to me. Some of what Mickey Dirk said, or Councilor Dirk, but there's no problem here with creating a building committee to make a public building or set of public buildings. We do it all the time. We've been doing it for decades and decades. Not concerned about the terms. They will be appointed to the appropriate terms. They have the appropriate scope of work, and it's okay to create a committee before. In fact, I'd actually encourage it because it really starts a set of communication between a group of people that are going to be actually overseeing and working on the construction of whatever the buildings that are chosen to be built. So having that communication beforehand, to understand design plans before they're just presented and say, go build this building, having interest and communication in and among all of the players that are going to be building these facilities, I think is important to start sooner than later. And when we start it sooner than later, we also get a lot of stakeholder communication with people that are in the public, stakeholder communication with companies that might be used for, stakeholder communication with architects, stakeholder communication with the Board of Ed, the town council, and so forth. There's absolutely no concern, on my part at least, that there's going to be some usurpation of Board of Education power, town council power. There's no committee that's going to be putting out a referendum, but they're going to certainly be talking about what's the best way to move forward, what's the best way to communicate with the public. I think that we did not do a great job last time during the referendum about showing people exactly what you're going to get for that amount of money, talking to people about the why the decisions were particularly made. So I think starting this committee earlier in the process is a good idea for all those particular reasons. And it just makes a lot of sense that that committee is going to be working on that project or those projects and all the intricacies that are going on with that particular thing. That's going to take time to understand the breadth of what we're talking about here. Because I think you're right, Councilor Carbone. These are big projects. Even if it's one elementary school, it's going to be a big project, not to mention multiple elementary schools. So I kind of wish we had gotten to this a couple weeks earlier or whatever, but it is what it is, and I'm happy that we're getting going now, and I certainly wouldn't want to delay it any further, as I think our children need it, and I think I'd like to get the job done.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Further council comment? Councilor Zambrello.
So I think great points have been made all around. The only thing that I would have to add is that, like Councilor Carbone mentioned, only one member must have construction experience. And I think the goal, as both parties make our appointments here, is to get a really well-rounded group of people, because school construction projects, it's construction, it's finance, it's project management, it's marketing communications. So we definitely don't want all one group of people who has one set of expertise. We want a well-rounded group. And I think it seems like we have some people in town who are going to be very able to fulfill those roles and put together a really comprehensive project that touches on all of those different pieces of what a school construction project means. So that's all I have to add. I'm happy to see this move forward.
Thank you, Councilor Zambrello. Further council comment? Councilor Carbone.
Thank you, Mayor. I really do appreciate those words, because that was my next comment, so thank you for that. Because I'm concerned, Councilor Derrick was talking about the experts, let the experts come to us. Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, we have one person who specializes in building out of 7 who is running a building project. That makes me very uncomfortable, but I do agree with Councilor Zambrello that, yeah, you have, somebody in finance or whatever, however. And as long as we can have some accountability, I completely understand with the wording. I think the wording is very uncomfortable when it's almost like saying, yes, you will build this committee and they'll just, in perpetuity. So thank you. I guess just thank you for those comments. That was very helpful, though.
Thank you, Councilor Carbone. Further councilors' comment? If not, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
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 Do you need a roll or do you have it?
I'm going to take a roll, please.
Okay, roll call vote, everyone.
Councilor Bailey?
Nay.
Councilor Carbone?
Nay.
Councilor Clancy?
Aye.
Councilor Durick?
Aye.
Councilor Rhodes?
Aye.
Councilor Timbrow?
Nay.
Councilor Zambrello?
Aye.
Councilor Forrest?
Yes.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Forrest, and Mayor Lesser.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ayes have it, 6-3, motion passes. Moving on, we have no ordinance and resolutions for introduction. We have item O, public comment. Again, you have 5 minutes to speak on any topic. Again, please state your name and address, even if you've spoken before. Jen, please, your hand was first.
So So it's funny, I came here to speak about Millwoods and some issues today on transparency because of something that happened earlier on Facebook with some town council members, but I didn't even realize schools were on the agenda. But I do have some words about it. Schools. I, in particular, voted against the last proposed plan, not because the schools need it, as I have school-age children. I've had a child, she's about to graduate college, 21 years old, went through Weathersfield school system, went through that horrible, horrible high school renovation, which is what's bringing me up here right now. You guys are talking about one builder on the committee. You guys are talking about multiple schools. That is exactly why I voted against it. You guys are putting these vague plans, hold on, I want to find my space again, I'm sorry. A vague plan for all schools over a long period of time after we watched a high school renovation go extremely over the time frame and the budget. We all watched the fiasco when we renovated the high school. I believe it's still an open committee. When was the last construction on the high school done? Because I'm assuming it's got to be, 4 years now? It's quite a long time, if you ask me. I might be wrong, but I believe that some of the town members' concerns were kind of cusping on that. You're putting a committee together with one builder after we've already had a fiasco in this town with a high school, with a renovation when it came to the schools. Concerns with no date, open carte blanche is kind of what I heard. And an undefined amount of time to a committee that will have another high school fiasco. Those are things you guys need to think about. Not everybody else in this town is well off as some of you guys up there right now. Some of us are struggling with this mill rate that you guys keep increasing on this town by your spending. Y'all need to think about it because we're all not well off like some of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I just want to point out that the charter calls for one member with building and construction experience.
That might want to be re-looked at after the high school fiasco is all I'm saying.
It's a minimum.
It's a minimum of one, calls for one. We may have two, we may have four, it's a minimum of one. They're not saying one, but thank you, Jen. Further public comment?
I don't need justification, I just need to be heard.
We're listening, believe me, we're listening. I just wanted to respond to that because
You guys want emails is what you want.
I do ask everyone to be respectful, please. Tom?
When they start giving me respect.
Tom?
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walcott Hill Road. The building committee discussion. So I was on the ad hoc school building committee. I don't know what it was called exactly. I was very concerned with some conversations that were presented at that meeting revolving around what was done at the high school. And one of the members spoke about a political action committee that they started for the high school. And the discussions were such that, in my opinion, it sounded like we need to get this building committee started now so that we can use it as a political action committee and push all this information out to the public. And I'll give you a couple examples. There was a series of photographs that were presented at that meeting by the superintendent. And those photographs were well dated. They were going back before the prior referendum for schools. And there was numerous photos that were posted online as to why we need to go back to referendum for schools, where those items were no longer valid. They had been addressed. There was pictures of bathroom fixtures with trash bags over them because they were inoperable. Well, those had been replaced. Those had been corrected. There was pictures of broken windows. Those had been replaced. There was pictures of the modular classroom before it was gutted and renovated. saying, look at the conditions of the school. And, you know, there was a lot of people that were animated in that meeting. It's like, oh, look at this is terrible. There was a grandmom there that, you know, oh, my kids have to sit next to buckets and the water's pouring through the ceiling. Then we listened to our roofing expert from Trimco saying, boy, it's unbelievable. We haven't had any water coming into the schools. With all this rain we're getting, we're not getting any water. It's like, who's telling the real story here? So those pictures got posted online on the Board of Ed, the Weathersfield Public Schools website with no commentary. There was no description that said, these are the pictures of the new doors at Emerson Williams because the old doors were wooden and wouldn't stay closed and they were a security hazard. Now we have new doors there. But there was no discussion about that, just the pictures. Then we had the two reports on the assessment of the schools. They were spreadsheets. They listed all the numbers of line items of things that needed to be corrected. You know, I think it was $30 million the first time around, excuse me, and $50 million the second time around. There was items on the second list that had already been corrected. They called out new roofs on the modular classrooms that had been done. They called out new HVAC systems on the portable classrooms, on the modular classrooms. We were told, I specifically said, replace them all. They're over 25 years old. They're beyond their useful life. That's what we always hear. No, the town told us, nope, they're fine, they don't need to be replaced. But now they're on the list to pump the number up. So I'm very concerned about a building committee that's going to start now pushing out all kinds of information that's not accurate. And there's nobody there watching them. It's the exact same scenario as the town organized Kycia Farm Committee. Exact thing. There's an agenda, and they're going to push information out, and because it's a Weathersfield committee, the taxpayers are going to say, well, that's got to be true. That's what they're saying. So I'm very concerned about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Further public comment? Anybody else? Mr. Young.
Good evening, good evening again. Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I take exception tonight to your minutes that we're on page 11 of March 18th, 2024 minutes. It says in the third sentence under my name as a speaker, it says, he accused the council of hiding the results of an earlier appraisal done on the Kycia property. I'm asking for that to be changed. Or at least, I know you approved it already, it should say he spoke about the Bello administration and two current town council members who refused to admit that the town commissioned a $3,200 town-paid appraisal of the Kycia farm. And all those members, prior and current town councils, refused to present the appraisal to the public in a timely manner before the referendum. Totally, I didn't accuse the town council back then.
What page?
Page 11. I didn't accuse the town council. I'm continuing to remind you of your town council at that time and the two members that are still sitting up here. What a crooked operation you run. And now tonight we're hearing some other things here that can go right along with it, and nobody will even talk about this. 5 years ago when you signed off on buying the Kycia farm, and I kept asking for the appraisal, no answer Amy would be looking at that clock while I was asking for it. Disgraceful town officials. Damn disgraceful. You got it?
I don't see it.
It's on page 18.
Oh, sorry.
11. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, mine says 18. Mine says 11. Mine was right after Michael and just before Tom Mazzarella.
It was
It's
in
11 at
your.
the top and 18 at the bottom.
Okay, good. You got it? Maybe Susan will make that correction in this March 18th or in this current room today on April 1st, that statement. I didn't accuse. I'm reminding how crooked and dishonest this town council back then, and several people sitting up here right now, Mr. Forrest, I know you're laughing your butt off over here, and you were one of them. You sat there with the appraisal to your chest. You wouldn't share it with the public because it was $1.7 million. Same with you, Mayor. And now you act like Mr. Holy and vile, whatever, when you sit up here. Crooked and dishonest. You didn't share it with us because you forgot. Didn't you forget? You couldn't even tell me why you paid $2.4 million for it in our conversation several weeks ago. Anyway, building committees. We heard tonight some people talk about building committees. Disgraceful group of people. Think about this. See, Mayor, why don't you look at the clock while I'm talking? That's what Mayor, that's what Amy used to do. The Willow Street School, back in the day,
I can turn my head.
when you had a referendum, the big issue was windows. The windows never got fixed. It was over budget. It was, the building committee did an absolute poor job of representing the citizens and didn't complete the job. Over years, we've been hearing about, I think if you look in your long-term plan, the windows are still in there to be replaced at the Willow Street School. That was 15 or 20 years ago. Were those windows really bad back 20 years ago or 15 years ago? I'm saying they were not, and that we were hoodwinked.
I'm going to ask you to summarize your
Yes,
final
sir.
thought.
Yes, sir. $10 million overrun at the high school with your building committee. I think you should find new people for the building committee because that group was absolutely bad too. And are we going forward with
Thank you for your comments.
another referendum?
Thank you.
You know where I stand. Thank you very much.
Further public comment. Mike?
Oh, back it off now. Back this way. Why do you want this?
I'll be quick.
Mike, for the record, your name and address, please.
Again, Mike
Yeah.
Barassa, 248 Dale Road, Weathersfield.
Thank you.
Just some comments about everyone talking about the language of the wording and so forth. All I ask is, running several budgets and projects, there has to be accountability. And the high school, in my opinion, didn't go well. And teachers that are working at the high school will still tell you projects haven't been completed. And we need that serious accountability, not only for time frame, but as far as monetary as well. Second, I'd like to apologize. I misunderstood Councilman Durrick's watching it on television. It wasn't an exploratory. It's kind of concrete that turf is going in. Like many, I don't care what goes in. We need fields. It's just the hypocrisy that I saw that offended me. A couple of things that I heard in the meeting, and it's very concerning, that there was some talk about 6.7% tax increase on the Board of Education side. I know it's just a number. It might be drilled back. But I'm hearing that it's around the same number, or 6% for that the council is going to raise taxes as well. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I'm hearing. And then the referendum is going to come in around $400 million, that there's talk about for all the projects included, and then the revaluation on top of that that's coming due, woo, giddy up. You guys weren't lying about raising taxes. If those numbers are accurate or close to being accurate, that's concerning. There's a lot of elderly people and low-income people in here. And, I mean, that's some big numbers right there. But again, thank you for all you do. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Mike. Get home and watch UConn. Big game tonight. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Other public comment? Anybody else? Public? If none, we will move on. Do I have a motion?
Move to executive session. I make a motion.
Counselor Carbone, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Counselor Carbone's.
I made a movement to go into executive session.
Do I have a second? Did you second? Oh, second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. We're in executive session. Thank you, everybody.